Can money really be that powerful that even true love bows down before it? Can a face, a promise, a feeling be bought with money? Does love truly hold no value in front of wealth? This man asked himself the same question the first time he sat alone on his rooftop, counting the stars one by one. Today, I will tell you a story where the absence of money took everything away. His years of love, those precious moments, those warm memories, filled with affection, all of it gone, taken away because of money, and he was left alone, lonely, abandoned, spending his nights doing nothing but counting the stars. Welcome back, friends, and a warm hello to everyone who's just found their way here tonight. I'm Kashif, and you're listening to Getz Sleepy. This is the place where you come when the day has been too long, when the thoughts won't stop, when you just need someone to sit with you in the quiet. Every night, I bring you a story, not just any story, a story that will make you feel something real, something deep, something that reminds you that you are not alone in whatever you are carrying tonight. And tonight's story is one of those stories, the kind that stays with you long after the words are gone, long after the night is over. It is the story of a man named Daniel. A simple man, a good man, a man who believed with every single bone in his body that love was enough, that if you loved someone truly, deeply, completely, nothing in this world could take them away from you. He was wrong. Or maybe the world was wrong, and he was the only one who got it right. So tonight, pull your blanket a little closer. Let your body sink into wherever you are resting. Take one slow, deep breath. In and out. The night is soft. The stars are out. And somewhere in the quiet little town of Maplewood, a man named Daniel is sitting alone on his rooftop, counting the stars, one by one. and wondering if she ever thinks about him the way he still thinks about her. Every single night. This is his story. And tonight, it is yours too. To understand why Daniel sits on that rooftop every night, we have to go back to a time when his eyes weren't tired, when his heart wasn't heavy, when life felt like it was just beginning. 8 years ago, Maplewood was the same quiet little town it always was. Same old streets, same familiar faces, same Saturday farmers market on the corner of Birch Avenue. Daniel was 26 years old back then. He worked at a small mechanic shop on the edge of town, Callahan's Auto Repair. It wasn't glamorous work. His hands were always dirty. His clothes always smelled like engine oil. And at the end of every shift, he came home tired. But he came home happy. Because back then, Daniel Hayes believed in simple things. A hot meal, a cold glass of water, a sky full of stars, and the idea that somewhere out there, there was someone meant for him. He just hadn't found her yet. Until one Saturday morning, in the most ordinary way possible, everything changed. It was early. The kind of early where the air still smells like dew, and the sun is just barely touching the tops of the trees. Daniel had finished his shift the night before, and instead of sleeping in, he had walked down to the farmer's market, like he did every Saturday. He was standing at one of the stalls, looking at some peaches. Not because he really needed peaches, but because Mrs. Henderson, who ran that stall, always gave him an extra one for free. And Daniel Hayes never said no to a free peach. He was reaching out to pick one up when someone else reached for the same peach. At the exact same moment, their hands touched. Just for a second, Daniel looked up, and there she was. Sarah Mitchell. She had brown eyes that caught the morning light like honey. Her hair was pulled back loosely, like she hadn't tried too hard, but somehow looked perfect anyway. And when their eyes met, she laughed. Not an awkward laugh. Not a sorry I didn't mean to laugh. A real laugh. Warm. Bright. Like someone had turned a light on inside a dark room. Daniel forgot what he was doing. He forgot about the peach. He forgot about Mrs. Henderson. He forgot about everything. He just stood there, like a complete fool, staring. Sarah raised an eyebrow and smiled. "You can have it," she said. "The peach. I'll find another one." Daniel blinked. "No, no. Please. You take it." She tilted her head. "You sure? You were reaching for it pretty seriously." Daniel laughed this time. "I was. But I think you need it more than I do." She looked at him for a moment, like she was trying to figure him out. And then she smiled again. That same warm, bright smile. "I'm Sarah," she said. He took a breath. "Daniel." And just like that, in the middle of a farmer's market, over one single peach, something began. Something quiet. Something neither of them had planned. Something that would one day mean everything. And one day mean nothing at all. But that morning, none of that mattered. That morning, Daniel walked home with no peach, and a heart full of something he couldn't name yet. He kept thinking about her laugh, the way her eyes caught the light, the way she said his name, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Daniel. Just one word. But from her, it sounded different. It sounded like home. He saw her again the very next Saturday. Same market. Same stall. This time she was already smiling when she saw him, like she had been hoping he would show up. They talked for 2 hours that morning, standing right there between the peach stall and Mrs. Henderson's flower table. They talked about the town, about their lives, about small things, about nothing important. And yet, every single word felt important, because it was her, and she was listening, really listening, like what he said actually mattered, like he was worth listening to, like he was worth knowing. Daniel couldn't remember the last time someone had made him feel that way. Before he left that morning, he gathered every bit of courage he had and asked for her number. His voice cracked a little, and she noticed, but she didn't make him feel embarrassed. She just smiled, took the small piece of paper he was holding, and wrote her number down. Then she folded it, pressed it into his hand, and said, "Don't lose it." Daniel looked down at the folded paper in his hand, then back up at her. "I won't," he said. And he meant it, more than she would ever know. That night, Daniel sat on his rooftop. That same rooftop he still sits on today. But back then, he wasn't counting stars out of sadness. He was counting them out of joy, out of disbelief, out of that dizzy, wonderful feeling that maybe, just maybe, something beautiful was about to begin. He looked up at the sky and whispered to no one in particular, "I think I just met someone special." The stars didn't answer, but the night felt warmer somehow, and Daniel smiled. A real smile. The kind that starts in your chest before it ever reaches your face. Now close your eyes for a moment and just breathe. Feel the quiet around you. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest. You are safe here. You are warm. And Daniel's story is just beginning. Rest easy. We have so much more to discover together. Part 3 is coming, and it will take you deeper into the life they built, into the love they shared, into the world that felt, for a little while, like it was made just for them. So stay with me and let the night carry you forward. Slowly, gently, into their story. Some love stories begin with grand gestures. Roses delivered to the door. Expensive dinners by candlelight. Diamonds in velvet boxes. But Daniel and Sarah's love story was never like that. It was smaller, quieter, and somehow so much more beautiful because of it. Their first date was nothing fancy. Daniel had saved up for 2 weeks to take her to a little Italian place on Main Street. Rosario's. It wasn't expensive. The chairs were mismatched. The candles were half melted. And the waiter always forgot something. But the food was warm. And so was the conversation. They talked for 4 hours that night. For hours. And when Daniel finally walked her home, he realized he hadn't checked his phone once. Not once. He couldn't remember the last time that had happened. At her door, Sarah turned around and looked at him with those honey brown eyes. "I had a really good time tonight," she said. Daniel smiled. "Me too." A pause. The good kind. The kind where nothing needs to be said, because everything is already understood. Then she smiled one last time and went inside. Daniel stood there for a moment on her front porch in the quiet and just breathed. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt seen. The months that followed were the happiest of Daniel's life. They were together every chance they got. Long walks through Maplewood on autumn evenings. Sharing one cup of coffee at the diner on cold mornings. Sitting on Daniel's rooftop on warm nights. Talking about everything. About nothing. About dreams. About the future. About what they wanted their lives to look like. Sarah would lean her head on his shoulder and look up at the stars. And one night she said something that Daniel never forgot. She pointed up at the sky, at the thousands of stars scattered above them, and said softly, "You know what, Daniel? I love you more than every single one of those stars." Daniel looked at her, then at the sky, then back at her. "That's a lot of love," he said quietly. She laughed. "Yeah," she whispered. "It is." And in that moment, under that endless sky, Daniel Hayes felt like the richest man in the world. Not because he had money, not because he had things, but because he had her, and she had chosen him. Simple, ordinary, grease-stained him. And that felt like the greatest miracle he had ever known. A year later, he asked her to marry him. There was no fancy restaurant, no photographer hiding in the bushes, no elaborate plan. He just came home one evening with wildflowers he had picked from the field behind Callahan's, purple and yellow and white, still dirty at the roots. He knocked on her door. She opened it, saw the flowers, and already started smiling. Daniel got down on one knee, right there on her front porch, the same porch where he had stood years ago, feeling seen for the first time. He looked up at her. His hands were shaking a little. "I don't have a big ring," he said. "I don't have a big house. I don't have a lot of money. But Sarah..." He paused. took a breath. I have a heart that will never stop choosing you. Every single morning. For the rest of my life. Sarah stood there. Flowers in her hands. Tears running down her face. And she nodded. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Daniel exhaled. Like he had been holding that breath for years. He slid the ring onto her finger. A small silver ring. Simple. Nothing extravagant. But she held it like it was the most precious thing she had ever touched. That night, they sat on his rooftop together, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, the stars above them, and everything felt right. Everything felt complete. Daniel looked up at the sky and thought to himself, this is enough. This is more than enough. I have everything I need. Right here. Right now. Their wedding was small. A tiny ceremony in the backyard of Daniel's neighbor, Mr. Peterson. 30 people. Homemade food. String lights hanging from the trees. Sarah wore a simple white dress. And she was the most beautiful thing Daniel had ever seen. When she walked toward him, he forgot how to breathe. He forgot where he was. He forgot everything except her. The way she moved. The way she smiled. The way her eyes found his. And stayed there. Like she wasn't looking anywhere else. Like there was nowhere else to look. The pastor said his words. They said their vows. And when Daniel said, I do, he meant every syllable. With everything he had. With everything he was. And so their life together began. A small rented house on Elm Street. 2 bedrooms. A tiny kitchen. A backyard just big enough for a garden. It wasn't much, but they made it theirs. Sarah planted sunflowers along the fence. Daniel fixed everything that was broken. The leaky faucet, the creaky door, the cracked window pane. He couldn't fix everything in life, but he could fix their home. And he did. Every single thing. With his own 2 hands. Their mornings were slow and warm. Coffee together before Daniel left for work. Sarah always made it just the way he liked. 2 sugars. A little extra strong. and she always handed it to him with both hands, like it was something sacred. Daniel would take it, look at her, and say the same thing every morning. "What did I do to deserve you?" And Sarah would roll her eyes and smile. "Go to work, Daniel." But she was always smiling when she said it. Always. Every Friday evening, Daniel would stop by the field behind Callahan's and pick wildflowers for Sarah. Purple, yellow, white. The same ones from the proposal. He never bought flowers from a store. Not because he couldn't, but because these felt more honest, more real, more him. Sarah always put them in the same blue glass vase on the kitchen windowsill. Every week, without fail. One evening Daniel came home, and the vase was empty. He walked into the kitchen and found Sarah standing there, holding the wildflowers he had just brought. Eyes wet. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. She shook her head. "Nothing," she said. Sometimes I can't believe you still do this." Daniel walked over, took the flowers gently from her hands, put them in the vase himself, then turned to her. "I will always do this," he said quietly. "Always." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Something deep in her eyes. Something that looked like love. And something else too. Something Daniel didn't notice then, but would remember later. Much later. When everything was gone. Those were the golden years. The years Daniel would give anything to live inside again. Just for one day. Just for one morning. Just for one cup of coffee. Handed to him with both hands. Like it was something sacred. But life doesn't work that way. It never does. Because just when you think you have everything, the world reminds you that nothing lasts forever. And the cracks were already beginning to form. But that is for the next part of our story. For now, let those golden images sit with you. The wildflowers, the rooftop, the stars, the coffee handed with both hands, like it was something sacred. Let them wrap around you, like a warm blanket on a cold night. Your breathing is slower now. I can feel it. Your body is heavier. Your thoughts are quieter. Let them be. You are safe here. You are warm. And Daniel's story will be here when you come back. Rest now, just for a little while. The night is still young, and so is the story. Close your eyes and let the stars keep watch. They always do. Nobody tells you how quietly a marriage can change. There is no big moment, no single fight, no dramatic turning point. It just shifts, like the seasons, so slowly, you barely notice, until one day you look around, and everything is different, and you find yourself wondering, when did this happen? When did we change? When did the warmth start to fade? For Daniel and Sarah, it started with a phone screen. It was a Tuesday evening. Daniel came home from work, tired like always, grease under his fingernails, ache in his shoulders, but happy, because home meant Sarah, and Sarah always made it worth it. He pushed open the front door. "Hey," he called out. No answer. He walked into the living room. Sarah was on the couch, phone in her hand, scrolling. She didn't look up. "Hey," Daniel said again. This time she glanced up briefly. "Hey," and went back to scrolling. Daniel stood there for a moment. Something felt different. He couldn't name it, but it felt different. He went to the kitchen, made himself a plate, sat down at the table, alone, and ate in silence. For the first time in years, he told himself it was nothing. She was just tired. Everyone has off days. He told himself that again and again. But the off days kept coming, more and more, until they stopped being off days and just became days. Sarah had a best friend named Lisa. They had known each other since high school. Lisa was funny and loud and warm, and Daniel had always liked her. But everything changed the year Lisa married a man named Robert. Robert Caldwell. He worked in finance in the city, made more money in a month than Daniel made in a year, and he spent it freely, loudly, like he wanted everyone to know. They moved into a big house on the north side of town. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Lisa started posting everything online. The vacations, the dinners, the designer bags, the perfect life. And Sarah watched every single post. Daniel noticed it first one evening, when he came home and found Sarah standing in their kitchen. Just standing, looking around at the small countertops, at the old refrigerator, at the sunflowers she had planted years ago, now slightly wilted in the window. "You okay?" Daniel asked. Sarah turned, smiled quickly. "Yeah, fine." But her eyes didn't match her smile, and Daniel noticed. He just didn't know what to do about it. A few weeks later, Lisa invited them to a dinner party at her new house. Daniel didn't want to go. Not because he was jealous, but because he could feel something. A quiet dread, like standing at the edge of something, and knowing that once you step forward, you can never step back. But Sarah wanted to go, so they went. The house was everything their house was not. High ceilings, marble floors, soft lighting that made everything look golden, and people everywhere, laughing, drinking, wearing clothes that cost more than Daniel's monthly salary. Daniel stayed close to Sarah all evening, held her hand, made her laugh a few times, tried to be enough, but he could see it in her eyes. The way she looked at the house, the way she touched the marble countertop in the kitchen, like she was imagining something, like she was somewhere else. On the drive home, they were quiet, the longest quiet they had ever shared. Not the good kind, not the kind where nothing needs to be said, the kind where too much needs to be said, and nobody knows how to start. Finally, Sarah spoke, softly, almost to herself. "Don't you ever feel like we deserve more than this?" Daniel kept his eyes on the road. His hands tightened on the wheel, just slightly. "We have each other," he said. "Isn't that enough?" Silence. Sarah looked out the window at the dark streets passing by. "Yeah," she said finally. But it didn't sound like yeah. It sounded like, I used to think so. Daniel heard it. Every word she didn't say. He heard all of it. And something inside him, quietly, broke. After that night, things changed. Slowly, but surely, Sarah started comparing little things at first. Lisa's husband got her a new car. Did you see their vacation photos? Robert just got promoted again. Daniel would nod. Say something kind. Try not to let it show how much it hurt, because it wasn't the words. It was what was behind them. The quiet message he kept hearing. You are not enough. You will never be enough. And the worst part was that Daniel started to believe it. He started working longer hours, picking up extra shifts at Callahan's, coming home later, going to bed exhausted. He told himself he was doing it for her, to give her more, to be more. But the more he worked, the less they talked, the less they laughed, the less they sat on the rooftop together, counting stars. The wildflowers still came every Friday. Daniel never missed a single week. But Sarah stopped putting them in the blue vase. She would take them, say thank you, and leave them on the counter. And by Monday, they were always in the trash. Daniel saw it every time, but never said a word. He just kept bringing them every Friday, without fail, because it was the only way he knew how to say, I am still here. I still love you. Please don't go. One night, Daniel woke up at 3 in the morning and reached over to Sarah's side of the bed. She was there, but she was facing away. He lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, trying to remember the last time she had leaned her head on his shoulder. The last time she had laughed at something he said. The last time she had looked at him. The way she used to look at him. Like he was everything. Like he was enough. He couldn't remember. And that scared him more than anything. More than the debt. More than the long hours. More than the empty dinner table. He reached out slowly and gently touched her shoulder. She didn't move. Sarah, he whispered. Nothing. He pulled his hand back, stared at the ceiling, and in the dark and the quiet. He said the most honest thing he had ever said. To nobody. To everybody. To the night itself. I don't know how to fix this. The ceiling didn't answer. The night didn't answer. And Sarah kept facing away. There is a particular kind of loneliness that only happens inside a marriage. When you are lying right next to someone, close enough to touch, close enough to hear them breathe, and yet they feel further away than anyone has ever felt. Daniel knew that loneliness now. He wore it every day, like a second skin, like something he couldn't take off, no matter how hard he tried. He loved her. God, he loved her more than the stars she had once claimed to love him by. But love alone couldn't fill the space that was growing between them. And Daniel, as good and as patient and as faithful as he was, did not know how to stop it. The wildflowers kept coming every Friday, without fail. But the blue vase on the windowsill had been empty for months, and neither of them said a word about it. That is the thing about cracks. They don't make noise. They don't announce themselves. They just grow. Silently. Steadily. Until one day, you reach for the thing you love most, and it crumbles in your hands. Daniel didn't know it yet, but the crumbling had already begun. Take a slow breath now. In and out. I know that was heavy. I know you felt it. Because you have felt something like this before. Maybe not the same story, but the same feeling. That slow, quiet fear. That something precious is slipping away. And you don't know how to hold on. Let that feeling sit for just a moment. And then, let it go. You are here. You are safe. The night is quiet. And we still have more of Daniel's story to tell. Part 5 is coming. And with it, the moment everything truly changed. But for now, let your body rest. Let your mind go quiet. The stars are still out. Daniel is still on his rooftop. And the night is holding you gently, just like it always does. Close your eyes and rest. There are moments in life that you can look back on later and say, that was it. That was the moment. That was the day everything shifted. For Daniel and Sarah, that moment had a sound. The slow purr of an expensive engine, rolling down the quiet streets of Maplewood on a warm Thursday afternoon in the middle of October, when the leaves were just beginning to turn and everything looked beautiful on the outside, while quietly dying underneath. His name was Marcus Hale. He was 38 years old, tall, well-dressed, the kind of man who walked into a room and somehow made everyone aware of his presence without saying a single word. He had grown up 3 towns over, gone to college on a full scholarship, built a real estate company from nothing, and turned it into something worth millions. He was successful. There was no denying that. But success had given Marcus Hale something else too. Something that money always seems to give to certain kinds of men. The quiet belief that he could have anything he wanted. Anything. If he just wanted it badly enough. He had come to Maplewood for business. A development project on the edge of town. New condos. New money. New everything. He was only supposed to stay for 2 weeks. He ended up staying for much longer because of a Thursday afternoon and a small coffee shop on Main Street called Maple Grounds. Sarah worked there part-time, 3 mornings a week. She had taken the job 2 years ago, just to have something of her own. Something outside the house. Something that made her feel like more than just a mechanic's wife. She was good at the job, warm with the customers, quick with the orders, and she had a smile that made people want to come back. That Thursday afternoon, Marcus Hale walked through the door. He looked around the small coffee shop, at the mismatched chairs, at the hand-painted menu on the wall, at the locals hunched over their laptops. He almost turned around. Almost. But then Sarah looked up from behind the counter and smiled. That warm, bright smile. The one that had once stopped Daniel in his tracks. At a farmer's market, over a single peach, Marcus walked to the counter. "What do you recommend?" he asked. Sarah tilted her head. "Depends on what you're looking for." Marcus smiled slowly. "Something worth coming back for. Sarah held his gaze for just a moment, then looked down at the menu. "Try the caramel latte," she said. "People drive 20 minutes just for that." Marcus nodded. "Then I'll have that." He paid, left a tip that was 3 times the price of the drink, and sat by the window for 2 hours. Before he left, he came back to the counter. "You were right," he said. "Worth coming back for." And he looked at her just a second too long before walking out. Sarah watched him go, then turned back to the counter and told herself it was nothing. Just a customer. Just a compliment. Nothing more. But she thought about it on the drive home, and she told herself again, it was nothing. Marcus came back the next morning, and the morning after that, always sitting by the window, always staying a little longer than necessary, always leaving a tip that was too generous, and always finding a reason to stop at the counter, to say something. Small things at first. "Cold morning, isn't it? You always this busy on Fridays? Do you ever get a day off?" Sarah answered politely, professionally, the way you do with regular customers. But Marcus was patient. He was very patient. He had not built $1 million company by rushing things. He knew how to wait. He knew how to watch. And he knew how to make someone feel seen. Really seen. In a way they hadn't felt in a long time. One morning, the coffee shop was quiet. Only 2 other customers, both on their laptops, both in their own worlds. Marcus came in, ordered his usual, and then instead of going to his table, he leaned against the counter and asked her something different. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah looked up. "Sure. Do you like it here? In Maplewood? In this life?" he said. Quietly. Carefully. Like he already knew the answer. Sarah froze for just a moment. Just a fraction of a second. But Marcus noticed. He noticed everything. "I'm happy," she said. Marcus nodded slowly. "That's not what I asked." Sarah looked at him. Something flickered in her eyes. Something she had been keeping very carefully locked away for a very long time. She looked back down. "I should get back to work," she said. Marcus straightened up. "Of course," he said, picked up his coffee, and walked to his table. But the question stayed. Long after he was gone. Long after the coffee shop closed. Long after Sarah drove home. Do you like it here? In this life? It sat inside her chest, like a coal, warm and slowly burning. That evening, Daniel came home with wildflowers. Like every Friday, purple and yellow and white. He held them out to her with a tired smile. Sarah took them, said thank you, and set them on the counter. Daniel watched, said nothing, went to wash his hands, and Sarah stood in the kitchen, looking at the flowers, then at the small kitchen, then at the old refrigerator, then out the window, at the life she had, and the life she had always imagined. And somewhere in that silence, a door opened inside her. Just a crack. Just enough for the wrong thing to walk right in. The following week, Marcus asked her to lunch. Just lunch, he said. I don't know anyone in this town, and I hate eating alone. Sarah hesitated. I'm married, she said. Marcus nodded. I know. It's just lunch. Nothing more. She should have said no. She knew she should have said no. Every single part of her knew it. But something else was louder that day. That quiet burning coal in her chest. That question that wouldn't leave her alone. Do you like it here? In this life? Okay, she said. Just lunch. And just like that, a line was crossed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. The way all the important things happen. Lunch turned into 2 hours. Marcus listened to her. Really listened. The way Daniel used to. Back in the beginning. He asked about her dreams. What she had wanted to be. Where she had wanted to go. What she had given up. And Sarah found herself talking. In a way she hadn't talked in years. About wanting to travel. About loving art. About a dream she had once had. Of opening her own little gallery someday. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere far from small town life. Marcus listened to every word, his eyes never leaving her face. And when she finished, he leaned forward slightly. "Why haven't you done any of that?" he asked. Sarah looked at her hands. "Life happened," she said quietly. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then softly, "Life doesn't have to stay the way it happened." Sarah looked up, and in his eyes, she saw something dangerous, something that looked like possibility, something that looked like escape, something that looked like everything she had been telling herself she didn't want. For years after that lunch, everything moved faster. Texts that started as innocent turned into long late-night conversations. Walks that were explained as errands. Smiles that lasted a little too long. And Marcus kept giving her things. Not just material things. Attention. Admiration. The feeling of being wanted. Not just needed. Wanted. Like she was something rare. Something precious. Something worth pursuing. And Sarah, who had spent years feeling invisible, in her own home, in her own marriage, in her own life, was drowning in it. Daniel noticed the change. Of course he did. He noticed everything about her. Even when she thought he wasn't watching. She was coming home later. Her phone was always face down. She laughed at things he couldn't see. And when he asked how her day was, she said fine. Always fine. In that way, that means everything is the opposite of fine. But I am not going to tell you. One evening, Daniel sat across from her at dinner and just looked at her. Really looked at the woman he had loved for 8 years. The woman he had picked wildflowers for every single Friday, without fail. The woman he had proposed to on one knee, with dirty rooted wildflowers and a shaking voice. The woman who had once told him she loved him more than every star in the sky. He looked at her, and he said quietly, "Sarah, are you happy?" Sarah looked up from her plate. Something crossed her face. Something fast. Something that looked almost like guilt. Almost like pain. Almost like an apology. Then it was gone. "Of course," she said, and smiled. That smile. But it wasn't the same smile. Not the warm, bright one from the farmer's market. Not the one that had made him feel like a light turned on. This one was smaller, practiced, like she had rehearsed it. Daniel nodded slowly, looked back down at his plate, and quietly said nothing. Because some questions, even when you ask them out loud, you already know the answer. And the answer is the one thing you are not ready to hear. That night, Daniel went up to the rooftop, alone, like he used to before Sarah. He sat in his old wooden chair and looked up at the stars. And for the first time in a long time, he started counting. 1, 2, 3. Not out of joy, not out of wonder, but out of something else. Something quieter. Something that had no name yet, but felt a lot like goodbye. Let that settle for a moment. Just breathe. In and out. You felt that, didn't you? That moment at the dinner table. That question hanging in the air. Are you happy? Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is ask the question, even when they are terrified of the answer. Daniel was brave. Daniel was always brave, even when it cost him everything. Rest now. Let your body sink deeper. Let your thoughts go quiet. The night is soft. The stars are out. And Daniel is still up there, on his rooftop, counting. We are almost at the hardest part of his story. But you don't have to face it tonight. Not if you are already drifting. Let yourself go. The story will be here tomorrow. And the night will hold you safe. Until then, there is something about ordinary days. The ones that start like every other day. Coffee brewing. Morning light coming through the curtains. The familiar sounds of a house waking up. Those are the days you never see coming. The ones that end with your whole world unrecognizable. Daniel would later think about that Tuesday morning more times than he could count. He would go over every detail, every small moment, every word, every look, searching for the sign he must have missed, the signal that should have told him, today is the last day. Hold on tighter. Don't let go. Don't leave. But there was no sign. There never is. That is the cruelest thing about endings. They look exactly like beginnings, right up until they don't. Daniel woke up at 6:15. Like always. The room was quiet. The morning light was pale and soft. Coming through the curtains Sarah had picked out 3 years ago. Blue ones. Because she said blue was the color of calm. He lay there for a moment, just breathing. Sarah was still asleep beside him. Or at least he thought she was. He could hear her breathing, slow and even. He turned his head and looked at her. The way he had looked at her 1,000 mornings before this one. Her hair loose against the pillow. Her face soft in the morning light. She looked peaceful. She looked like the Sarah from the farmer's market. From the rooftop. From the beginning. And Daniel felt something. Deep and quiet and aching. A love so old it had become part of him. Like breathing. Like his own heartbeat. He didn't know it then. But he was memorizing her. The way you memorize something. Without knowing you will need to remember it. He got up quietly, so he wouldn't wake her. Went to the kitchen and made coffee. 2 cups. The way he always did. 2 sugars in hers. A little extra strong. He set her cup on the counter and waited. Sarah came into the kitchen 20 minutes later. She was already dressed, which was unusual. She was normally still in her robe at this hour. "You're up early," Daniel said. She looked at him. Just for a second. "Couldn't sleep," she said. She picked up her coffee, held it with both hands, like she always did. And for one moment, one single beautiful moment, everything felt normal. Everything felt like before. Daniel leaned against the counter and smiled at her. "You okay?" he asked. Sarah looked down at her cup. "Yeah," she said. Quietly. Too quietly. Daniel watched her. That familiar ache moving through him. He wanted to say something. He didn't know what. Maybe, "I love you." Maybe, "Please talk to me." Maybe, whatever is happening, we can fix it. Together. But he said none of those things. He just finished his coffee, rinsed his cup, and reached for his jacket. At the door, he turned back. Sarah was still standing in the kitchen, cup in both hands, looking out the window at the sunflowers she had planted years ago. Still growing, still reaching for the light. Even now, Daniel looked at her for a long moment, memorizing again, without knowing. "I'll be home by 6, he said. She nodded, didn't turn around. "Okay," she said. Daniel hesitated. One more second. Then he walked back to her, put his hand gently on her shoulder, leaned down, and kissed the top of her head. Sarah closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Just one moment. And Daniel felt her lean into him. Barely. Just slightly. Like the smallest goodbye. Like a door closing softly. So softly you almost don't hear it. He straightened up, squeezed her shoulder once, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him, and Sarah stood in the kitchen, alone, with her coffee going cold, and a decision already made. Daniel had a good day at work. That was the thing he could never make sense of later. He had a genuinely good day. Fixed a transmission that had been giving him trouble all week. Laughed with his co-worker Pete about something stupid. Ate his lunch outside in the autumn sun. And thought about maybe surprising Sarah with takeout from Rosario's, their restaurant, their first date place. Maybe that would help. Maybe that would bring something back. He called in the order at 5:30. Picked it up on the way home. 2 orders of the pasta she always got. Garlic bread. The little chocolate dessert she pretended not to want, but always finished. He was smiling when he pulled onto Elm Street. Actually smiling. Hopeful. In that fragile, tender way that only the truly loving can manage, even when everything is falling apart. He pulled into the driveway and noticed the house was dark. No lights. No movement. He figured she was upstairs, or maybe taking a nap. He unlocked the front door, stepped inside. Sarah. Silence. He set the food on the table, took off his jacket. Sarah. Still nothing. He walked to the bedroom. Empty. The bathroom. Empty. The backyard. Empty. He stood in the middle of the hallway and felt it before he understood it. That particular silence. Not the silence of an empty house, but the silence of a changed house. Something was different. Something was missing. He walked back to the bedroom, and this time he really looked. Her side of the closet. Open. Empty. The hangers bare. Like a mouth with no words left. Her dresser drawers. Open. Empty. The small jewelry box she kept on the nightstand. Gone. The photograph of the two of them from their wedding day that had sat on her dresser for 7 years. Gone. Daniel stood very still in the middle of the bedroom, in the fading afternoon light, and the world just stopped. He walked back to the kitchen, slowly, like a man moving through water. And that was when he saw it. On the kitchen table, next to the takeout he had brought home, next to the garlic bread, next to the little chocolate dessert, a single piece of paper, folded once, his name written on the front, in her handwriting. Daniel. Just his name. The way she used to say it. At the farmer's market. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like home. He stood there for a long time, just looking at it, not picking it up. Not yet. Because he knew, the moment he picked it up, everything would be real. And right now, in this last moment of not knowing, he could still pretend. He could still believe that there was another explanation. That she had just gone to Lisa's. That she would be back by morning. That the empty closet meant nothing. That the missing photograph meant nothing. That his name on a folded piece of paper on a Tuesday evening meant nothing. He stood there for a very long time, in the quiet, in the dark, in the smell of cooling takeout food. And then he picked it up. The note was short. 3 sentences. That was all. 3 sentences for 8 years. 3 sentences for every wildflower. Every rooftop night. Every cup of coffee made with 2 sugars. every Friday, without fail. 3 sentences. Daniel, I am so sorry. I need more than this life can give me. Please don't look for me. That was it. No explanation. No reason. No I love you. No goodbye. Just 3 sentences. And a first name. Like he was a stranger. Like 8 years was something you could fold up and leave on a kitchen table next to the garlic bread. Daniel read it once, then again, then a 3rd time. Like maybe the words would change. Like maybe he had misread something. Like maybe there was a hidden message. A secret line between the lines that said, I'm coming back. Wait for me. There wasn't. There was just 3 sentences and silence. He didn't cry. Not right away. He sat down at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes, still smelling like engine oil. And he just... Saturday. The takeout went cold. The chocolate dessert she would never eat sat untouched. The house made its small familiar sounds. The refrigerator humming. The clock on the wall ticking. The wind outside moving through the sunflowers she had planted. Still growing. Still reaching. Even now. Even after everything. Daniel put the note down. Very carefully. Like it was something fragile. Like it deserved to be handled gently. Even now. He pressed his hands flat on the table. Looked at them. These hands that had fixed 1,000 broken things. These hands that had picked wildflowers every Friday. These hands that had slid a small silver ring onto her finger. On a porch. On a perfect evening. When she had said yes. 1,000 times yes. He looked at his hands. For a very long time. And then something happened. Something cracked. Not loudly. Not with a scream or a sob. Just quietly. The way everything important always happened in Daniel's life. Quietly and completely. He went up to the rooftop that night. He didn't know why. He just did. Like his feet knew where to take him. Even when his mind had stopped working. He sat down in his old wooden chair and looked up at the sky. It was a clear night. Hundreds of stars. Thousands. All of them out. Like they had gathered. Just for this. And Daniel, for the first time since she had told him that she loved him more than every single one, started counting. 1, 2, 3. His voice was barely a whisper, cracked at the edges, like something broken trying to hold its shape. 4, 5, 6. He didn't know how long he sat there. He didn't know what he was looking for. Maybe he was looking for her, in the only place she had ever promised to be, among the stars, more than every single one. That's what she had said. That's what she had promised. And Daniel Hayes, the most faithful man in Maplewood, was holding her to it. Even now. Even after everything. Even alone. On a rooftop. On the worst night of his life. He was still looking for her love. In the stars she had given it to. And counting. Always counting. Take a breath. A long, slow one. In and out. I know that was hard. But you stayed. You stayed with Daniel. Through the empty closet. Through the folded note. Through the cold takeout. Through the rooftop. And that matters. Because Daniel stayed too. Through all of it. He stayed. Now let the night hold you. The way it holds Daniel. Up on that rooftop. Under those stars. Let your body go heavy. Let your breathing go slow. The hardest part of the story is behind us now. What comes next is something quieter, something softer, something that feels a little like healing, a little like peace, a little like a man who lost everything and somehow found a way to keep going. Close your eyes now. You have earned your rest. The stars are out. Daniel is counting. And the night is wrapping itself around you. Warm and soft and gentle. Like it always does. For the ones who need it most. Good night. Rest well. You are safe here. Always. Nobody prepares you for the morning after. Not the movies. Not the songs. not the people who have been through it. They try. They say things like, "It gets better. Time heals everything. You will be okay." And maybe they are right. Maybe eventually, all of those things are true. But they don't tell you about that first morning. That very first one. When you wake up, and for exactly 3 seconds, everything is normal. You are just a person waking up, in your own bed, in your own house, on an ordinary morning. And then it hits you, like a wave you didn't see coming. Cold. Total. Absolute. She is gone. She is really gone. And those 3 seconds of not knowing become the most precious 3 seconds of your day. Because after them comes everything else. Daniel knew those 3 seconds well. He lived inside them every morning. For a very long time. The first week was the hardest. Not because of the big moments, but because of the small ones. The ones nobody warns you about. Monday morning, Daniel went to make coffee and made 2 cups. Out of habit, he stood there, looking at the second cup. Steam rising. 2 sugars. A little extra strong. Just the way she liked it. He stood there for a long time. Then he poured it down the sink and sat alone at the kitchen table with his 1 cup. In the silence. Tuesday. He came home from work and called out her name before he could stop himself. Sarah. The word left his mouth before his brain could catch it. It just fell out, like it had been living there for so long. It didn't know it had nowhere to go anymore. The silence that answered him was the loudest thing he had ever heard. Wednesday. He reached for his phone to text her that he was on his way home, like he had done every single day. For 8 years, he got as far as opening her name, and then just sat there, staring at it. Her name on his screen. Sarah. 2 syllables. 6 letters. A whole world. He put the phone down and went back to work. Thursday. He drove past Rosario's on the way home and had to pull over. He sat in the parking lot of a gas station across the street and looked at the little Italian restaurant. The mismatched chairs visible through the window. The half-melted candles. The waiter who always forgot something. He sat there for 20 minutes. Not crying. Not doing anything. Just sitting. With 8 years of memory pressing on his chest, like a hand that wouldn't lift. Friday. He went to the field behind Callahan's. After his shift. Out of habit. He was already crouching down, reaching for the wildflowers, purple and yellow and white. Before he remembered, he stayed crouched there, in the field, in the fading evening light, hand hovering over the flowers. And he stayed like that for a very long time, before he slowly stood up and walked back to his truck, empty-handed, for the first time in years. That was the moment he cried. Not in the bedroom. Not reading the note. Not on the rooftop. But in a field. Alone. At the end of a Friday. With no one to bring flowers to. That was when it finally broke. Completely. And fully. And without apology. His neighbor noticed first. An older man named Walter. 72 years old. Widower. Lived alone in the blue house next door. He had seen things. He knew things. The way only old men who have loved and lost really know things. He knocked on Daniel's door on a Saturday morning, 9 days after Sarah left. Daniel opened it. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were tired. He was still in the same shirt he had slept in. Walter looked at him for a long moment, said nothing about how he looked, just held up 2 paper cups of coffee from the diner down the street. Figured you could use some company, Walter said. Daniel looked at the coffee, then at Walter, and something in his chest cracked open in a different way. Not the breaking kind, the other kind, the kind that let something in. Yeah, Daniel said, his voice rough. I could. They sat on the front porch in the morning quiet and drank their coffee. Walter didn't ask questions, didn't offer advice, didn't say it gets better. He just sat there, present, solid, like an old tree in a storm. just being there. And sometimes, that is the only thing in the world that actually helps. The weeks that followed were not easy, but they were survivable. Daniel went to work every single day. He fixed the things that were brought to him. Engines, transmissions, broken things. He was good at it. He had always been good at it. And there was something almost comforting about having broken things in front of you. Things you could actually fix with your hands, with your knowledge, with enough time and patience. If only people worked the same way. Pete at the shop never pushed, never pried, just kept things normal, kept the radio on, kept the bad jokes coming, kept a spare sandwich in the break room fridge. That somehow always appeared on the days Daniel looked like he hadn't eaten. Nobody talked about it. It was just there. And Daniel ate it. Every time. Without a word. That is the thing about small towns. And good people. They don't always know what to say. But they know what to do. And they do it. Quietly. Without being asked. A month after Sarah left, Daniel went back to the field. On a Friday evening, he stood at the edge of it for a long time, looking at the wildflowers, purple and yellow and white, swaying slightly in the evening breeze. And then he walked in and picked them. Not for her. Not this time. He brought them home and put them in the blue glass vase on the kitchen windowsill, where she used to put them. He stood back and looked at them, the evening light catching the purple ones, making them glow. He didn't know why he did it. Maybe because the kitchen felt too empty. Maybe because some habits are worth keeping, even when the reason for them is gone. Maybe because wildflowers in a blue vase had nothing to do with her anymore, and everything to do with him, with who he was, with what he valued, with the kind of man he wanted to stay. Even now, even alone, especially alone, the nights were still the hardest. They always are. When the day is over and the noise stops and there is nothing left between you and your thoughts, Daniel still went to the rooftop. every night, without fail. His old wooden chair, the cold night air, the stars above. He still counted them, every single night. 1, 2, 3. His neighbors thought it was strange. Mrs. Kim from across the street once asked Walter about it. Does he do that every night? Walter nodded. Every night. Why? She asked. Walter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because someone once told him she loved him more than every star in that sky. And I think he's just making sure he didn't miss any. Mrs. Kim didn't say anything after that. She just looked up at the rooftop, at Daniel sitting alone in his old wooden chair, head tilted back, lips moving softly, counting. And something about it was the saddest thing she had ever seen, and the most beautiful, both at once, the way real things always are. One night, about 3 months after Sarah left, Daniel was on the rooftop, counting, like always, when he heard small footsteps on the stairs. He turned. It was a little boy, 7 years old, from 2 houses down. His name was Charlie. Charlie Morrison. Freckles. Messy hair. The kind of kid who asked questions about everything, all the time, without apology. He climbed up onto the rooftop and walked right over to Daniel, like he had been invited, like this was perfectly normal. He stood beside the chair and looked up at the sky, then at Daniel, then back at the sky. "What are you doing?" Charlie asked. Daniel looked at him. "Counting stars," he said. Charlie considered this. "Why?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. The way you are quiet when a simple question has a very long answer. "Because someone once told me she loved me more than all of them," he said. Charlie looked up at the sky, his small face serious, thinking it over. "That's a lot of love," Charlie said. Daniel felt something move through him. Those exact words. From years ago, on this same rooftop, he had said the same thing to her. "That's a lot of love." And she had whispered, "Yeah, it is." Daniel looked at Charlie, this small, serious 7-year-old, who had no idea what he had just done. "Yeah," Daniel said softly. "It is." Charlie nodded. Like that settled it. Then he sat down, right on the rooftop floor, cross-legged, next to Daniel's chair, and looked up at the sky. "Can I count with you?" he asked. Daniel looked at him for a long moment. Something in his chest shifting quietly, like a window opening after a very long winter. "Yeah," he said, "you can." And so they counted together, a grown man carrying a broken heart, and a 7-year-old boy who just didn't want to go to bed yet. Both of them looking up, both of them counting. 1, 2, 3, under the same endless sky that holds everything. The grief, the love, the loss, the small unexpected moments of grace that find you, even on rooftops, even in the dark, even when you least expect them, even when you have stopped looking for them. That night, for the first time in 3 months, Daniel smiled. A real one. Small. Quiet. Like a match being struck in a very dark room. Not enough to see everything, but enough. Just enough to remember that light still exists, that it always exists, somewhere, if you are willing to look. Breathe. Just breathe. In and out. You felt that, didn't you? Charlie sitting down on that rooftop. Those 4 words. Can I count with you? Sometimes the universe sends you comfort in the smallest packages, in the most unexpected moments. A 7-year-old with messy hair and no idea that he just gave a broken man his first real smile in 3 months. Hold on to that. The way Daniel held on to it. Let it sit warm in your chest as your eyes grow heavy, as your breathing slows, as the night wraps itself around you. Soft and warm and safe. You have traveled so far tonight, through Daniel's pain, through his loss, through his long quiet nights. And now, You are almost home. Just one more part to go. The final chapter. The one where we find out what becomes of a man who loved completely, lost everything, and still chose to keep going. But that is for tomorrow. Tonight, you have done enough. You have felt enough. You have carried enough. Now let it all go. Let your body sink. Let your mind go quiet. Let the stars keep watch. They always do. Good night. Sweet dreams. You are so very safe here. Always. There is a particular kind of strength that nobody talks about. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that looks like victory. Not the kind with a triumphant moment, where the music swells and everything clicks into place. This strength is quieter than that. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for recognition. It just shows up every single morning in the simple act of getting up, making coffee, going to work, coming home, and doing it all again, day after day, week after week, month after month, without knowing when it gets better, without any guarantee that it will. Just choosing to keep going. Because what else do you do? Daniel Hayes had that strength. He didn't know he had it. He never would have called it strength. He would have called it just getting through the day. But sometimes, that is exactly what strength looks like. Just getting through the day. One more time. 6 months after Sarah left, something shifted. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just quietly. The way everything important shifts. Daniel was sitting at his workbench at Callahan's on a Wednesday afternoon, working on an old Ford pickup that belonged to a farmer named Earl, who lived 20 miles outside of town. Earl was 70 years old. Hands like leather. Voice like gravel. And a laugh that filled whatever room he was in. He had brought the truck in with an engine problem that 3 other mechanics had failed to fix. Daniel found it in 40 minutes. A small thing, easy to miss if you didn't know what you were looking for. He came out to the waiting area, where Earl was sitting, hat in his lap. reading a magazine from 3 years ago. Found it, Daniel said. Earl looked up. That fast? Daniel shrugged. It wasn't hiding very well. Earl laughed. That big room-filling laugh. Son, he said, I have been to 3 shops. Spent more money than I want to say. And nobody could find what you just found. In 40 minutes. You have a gift. Daniel looked at him. Something about those words landing differently than they should have. It's just a job, Daniel said. Earl shook his head slowly. No, he said. A job is something you do for money. A gift is something you do that nobody else can do quite like you. Don't confuse the two. Daniel didn't say anything. He went back to the truck and finished the repair. But Earl's words stayed with him. All day, all evening, up on the rooftop that night, while he counted the stars. A gift, not just a job. A gift. He had never thought of it that way. Not once. In all the years of dirty hands, and long shifts, and coming home tired, he had never once thought that what he did was something special, something only he could do, quite like him. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth something. Even now, even alone, even with everything he had lost. The dream came back around that time. The one he had buried years ago, under the weight of bills and long shifts, and the quiet belief that some dreams are just not meant for people like him. His own garage, his own shop, his name on the door, Daniel Hayes Auto. He had talked about it once, early in his marriage. Sarah had smiled, said someday, and somehow someday had turned into never. But now, in the silence of a life stripped down to just him, just his hands, just his gift, the dream came back, quietly, like a friend who had been waiting outside, patient, without complaint, for years, just waiting for the door to open. Daniel started saving. Not a lot at first. A little every paycheck. He wrote it down in a small notebook, the one he kept in his jacket pocket. every entry, every dollar, small numbers, building slowly, the way real things build, not all at once, but steadily, with intention, with faith, in something that couldn't be seen yet, but could be felt, in the chest, like a compass, always pointing, always saying, this way, keep going, this way. Walter noticed the change, the way old men notice everything, quietly, from a distance, without making a fuss. One Saturday morning, they were on the front porch again. Coffee from the diner. The autumn air cool and clean. Walter looked at Daniel. Really looked. The way he had that first morning, 9 days after Sarah left. When Daniel had opened the door, unshaven, tired, hollow. But now, something was different. Something had come back. Not all the way. Not yet. But something. A small light. Behind the eyes. Walter took a sip of his coffee. You look better, he said. Simply. No fuss. Daniel looked out at the street. At the leaves falling from the oak tree. On the corner. Red and gold and amber. I've been thinking about opening my own shop, he said. Walter nodded. Like he had been expecting this. Like he had known it was coming. Before Daniel did. About time, Walter said. Daniel looked at him. You think I can do it? Walter turned and looked at him with those steady old eyes. The ones that had seen everything, lost everything, and kept going anyway. Daniel, he said, I have watched you for a long time. You fix things. It's what you do. It's who you are. The question was never, can you do it? The question was always, when are you going to stop waiting for someone else's permission to build the life you deserve? Daniel held those words like he had once held a folded piece of paper with his name on it. But this time, the words didn't break him. This time, they built something right there in his chest. Small, but solid, like the foundation of something real. That evening, Daniel did something he hadn't done in a very long time. He went to the field behind Callahan's and picked wildflowers, purple and yellow and white. He brought them home, put them in the blue vase, and then he sat down at the kitchen table with a piece of paper and a pen, and he started writing a business plan. Nothing fancy, just ideas, numbers, a name: Daniel Hayes Auto. He wrote for 2 hours. The wildflowers in the blue vase, catching the kitchen light, the house quiet around him, but not the empty kind of quiet. Not anymore. A different kind. The kind that feels like space, like room, like possibility, like a page that hasn't been written yet and is waiting patiently for the right words. He thought about Sarah that night. Of course he did. He still thought about her. He probably always would. You don't love someone for 8 years and just stop. Love doesn't work like an off switch, no matter how much you wish it did. But something was different now. The way he thought about her, it wasn't the sharp kind anymore. Not the kind that took the breath away. Not the kind that made him reach for her side of the bed in the dark. It was softer now, like an old scar. Still there, always there, but no longer bleeding. Just there. Part of him. Part of his story. He thought about who she was when she was at her best. Her laugh. Her honey brown eyes in the morning light. The way she said his name. Like home. He didn't hate her. He had tried to. In the early weeks. It would have been easier. Anger is easier than grief. It gives you something to push against. Something to burn. But Daniel wasn't built for hatred. He never had been. He was built for the other thing. The harder thing. Understanding. She had wanted more. More than he could give her. More than their small life offered. Was that wrong? He didn't know. Maybe. Probably. The way she left was wrong. 3 sentences on a kitchen table. That was wrong. But the wanting, the deep human ache, for more, for bigger, for different. He understood that. He had wanted more too. He still did. He was just building it differently. With his hands. With his savings notebook. With his name on a piece of paper. One day on a door. He was building his more. Quietly. Steadily. The only way he knew how. 1 year after Sarah left. On a Tuesday evening. Daniel came home from work. And stopped in the doorway. Of his small house. On Elm Street. He stood there. And just looked. At the blue curtains. Still hanging. The color of calm. At the sunflowers in the backyard. Still growing. Still reaching. At the blue vase on the kitchen windowsill. With fresh wildflowers. Purple and yellow and white. At the small notebook on the table. Full of numbers. And a name. Daniel Hayes Auto. He stood in his doorway. And took it all in. This small life. This quiet life. This life that looked nothing like what he had imagined. When he was a young man. Standing at a farmer's market. Reaching for a peach. And finding something so much better. This life that had been broken. And was being slowly. Carefully. Rebuilt. By no one but him. With no one but him. And for the first time. In a very long time. He didn't feel the absence. He felt the presence. Of everything that was still here. Still his. Still real. The house. The wildflowers. The dream. Walter next door. Charlie with his messy hair. Pete and his terrible jokes. Earl and his leather hands. And the stars. Always the stars. Waiting for him every night. On the rooftop. In his old wooden chair. Patient. Constant. Like old friends. He took a long breath. In. And out. And walked inside. Home. That night on the rooftop. Daniel looked up at the sky. And counted. Like always. 1, 2, 3. But tonight, something was different. He wasn't counting to find her. He wasn't counting to hold on to something lost. He was counting because it was his. This ritual. This rooftop. This sky, these stars, they belong to him now. Not to the memory, not to the grief, not to the 3 sentences on a kitchen table. To him, Daniel Hayes, mechanic, wildflower picker, star counter, a man who had loved completely, lost everything, and found his way back to himself. He looked up at the endless sky, at the thousands of stars, and he smiled. That real smile, the one that starts in the chest, before it reaches the face. And he whispered, to no one, to everyone, to the night itself, I'm going to be okay. The stars didn't answer, but the night felt warmer somehow, the way it had felt years ago on a different rooftop night, when a young man had looked up and whispered, I think I just met someone special. The same sky, the same stars, a different man, a better man, shaped by love and loss, and the long quiet work of healing, one night at a time, one star at a time. And that is where we leave him, not broken, not bitter, not defined by what was taken from him, but sitting on his rooftop, under his stars, with a dream in a notebook, and wildflowers in a blue vase, and a smile that belongs only to him. Daniel Hayes, the man who counted stars, not because he lost someone, but because the sky was always beautiful, and he was finally ready to see it that way again. Now it is time for you to rest. You have walked every step of this journey with Daniel, through the farmer's market, through the wildflowers, through the rooftop nights, through the empty closet, through the 3 sentences, through the field on a Friday, through Charlie and his messy hair, through Walter and his steady eyes, through the savings notebook, through the first real smile, through the quiet acceptance, through all of it, you stayed. And that says something about you, about the kind of person you are, the kind who feels deeply, who loves completely, who understands that some things are worth grieving because they were worth having. Take that with you into your sleep tonight. Let it settle into you like warmth, like comfort, like the knowledge that no matter what you have lost, or are losing, or are afraid of losing, you are still here, still breathing, still counting your own stars, in your own way. And that is enough. That has always been enough. Let your eyes close now, completely. Let your body go heavy. Let your breathing go slow. The night is soft. The stars are out. Daniel is on his rooftop, smiling. And you are exactly where you need to be. Safe, warm, held by the night, held by the story, held by the simple truth that love, real love, never truly leaves. It just changes shape and finds its way back to you in wildflowers, in old neighbors with paper cups of coffee, in 7-year-old boys who just want to count stars, in the quiet courage of a man who kept going, even when he had every reason to stop. Good night. Sleep well. You are so deeply, so completely, so unconditionally safe here, always, tonight, and every night that follows. Every story has a last page, not because the story ends, but because at some point you have to close the book, set it down, and carry what it gave you back into your own life, back into your own nights, back into your own quiet. This is that page for Daniel and for you. Tonight, it was a Friday evening, late October, almost exactly 2 years after Sarah had left. The town of Maplewood was doing what small towns do in October, turning golden. The oak tree on the corner of Elm Street was on fire with color, red and amber, and the kind of deep burnt orange that makes you stop walking and just look, just breathe, just be grateful that you have eyes. The air smelled like wood smoke and fallen leaves and something sweet that only October knows how to make. Daniel drove home from work with the windows down, even though it was cold. He liked the cold. He always had. It made things feel real, present, alive. He stopped at the field behind Callahan's, like every Friday, without fail, and picked wildflowers, purple and yellow and white. But today, he picked more than usual, a big armful, more than would fit in the blue vase. He wasn't sure why. He just felt like it. Sometimes you do things without knowing why, and the reason comes later, or it doesn't. And that is okay too. When he got home, there was a truck parked outside. He didn't recognize it. A new one. Black, with a contractor's logo on the side. He walked past it, into the house, put the wildflowers in the blue vase. They spilled over the edges a little, purple and yellow and white, all over the kitchen windowsill, like something overflowing, like something that couldn't be contained. He stood back and smiled at them. Then he heard a knock at the door. He opened it, and for a moment, the world tilted. It was Sarah, standing on his front porch in the October evening, leaves falling around her. She looked different, older, tired, the kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep, the kind that comes from somewhere deeper. She was wearing a coat he didn't recognize. Her hair was shorter. Her eyes were the same, honey brown. But something in them was different now. Something quieter. Something that looked almost like regret. They looked at each other for a long moment, neither of them moving, neither of them speaking. Two people standing on opposite sides of a door, with 2 years of silence between them. Finally, Sarah spoke. "Hi, Daniel," she said, her voice smaller than he remembered. "Hi, Sarah," he said, his voice steady, calmer than he expected, calmer than he would have been a year ago, 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. But not now. Now he was steady, and he noticed that about himself, with something close to quiet surprise. He let her in. Of course he did, because that was who he was. He put the kettle on, made 2 cups of tea, and they sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she had left 3 sentences on a Tuesday evening 2 years ago. She looked around the kitchen at the blue curtains still hanging, at the sunflowers visible through the window still growing, at the wildflowers in the blue vase overflowing onto the windowsill. Something crossed her face, something fast and complicated. "You kept the vase," she said. Daniel looked at it. "Yeah," he said. "I did." A pause. "How are you?" she asked. Daniel wrapped his hands around his cup. "Good," he said. "Really good, actually." And he meant it. Every word. Sarah nodded, looked down at her tea. "I heard you're opening your own shop," she said. "Word travels in small towns." Daniel almost smiled. "Next spring," he said. "If everything goes to plan." Sarah looked up. "Daniel Hayes Auto," she said, like she was tasting the words, like she was feeling the weight of them. "You always wanted that." "Yeah," Daniel said. "I did." Another pause. Longer this time. The kitchen clock ticking. The wildflowers catching the evening light. Then Sarah put her cup down and looked at him. Really looked. The way she used to. At the beginning. Before everything. "I made a mistake, Daniel," she said. Quietly. Without drama. Without excuses. Just the words. Bare and honest. Like wildflowers. Still dirty at the roots. I know that now. I think I knew it before I even left. But I left anyway. And I am so sorry. For the note. For the way I did it. For all of it. I am so deeply sorry. Daniel listened. Every word. He let them land. He didn't rush to fill the silence. He just held her words. The way he had once held her note. Carefully. Even though they hurt. Even now. Because some things deserve to be held. Even when they are heavy. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I know you are. And I believe you." Sarah looked at him. Something in her eyes breaking open. Just like that, she whispered, Daniel looked at her, at this woman he had loved for so long, with so much. "Sarah," he said, "I spent a long time being angry. And then I spent a long time being sad. And then one day, I just decided that I wasn't going to carry it anymore. Not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. But because I only have one life. And I don't want to spend it being defined by what broke me. I want to spend it building what I love. So yes, just like that, I forgive you. Not for you. For me." Sarah sat very still, her eyes full, a single tear running down her face. She didn't wipe it away. She just let it fall. Daniel watched it and felt something release in him. Something he hadn't even known he was still holding. Something very old and very tired. Finally, letting go. They talked for 2 hours. Not about getting back together. Neither of them suggested it. Neither of them wanted it. That door was closed. Gently, but completely. They talked like two people who had once meant everything to each other and were now learning how to mean something different, something smaller, but still real, still honest, still worth having. Sarah told him about Marcus, how it had ended, quietly, the way it had begun, how she had realized, too late, that what she had been running toward was never really there, and what she had been running from was the only real thing she had ever had. Daniel listened, without satisfaction, without "I told you so," without anything except the quiet dignity of a man who had nothing to prove, because he had already proved it to the only person who mattered, himself. Before she left, Sarah stood at the door and looked at him one last time. "You seem different," she said. Daniel thought about it. "I am," he said. "Is it better?" she asked. He didn't hesitate. "Yeah," he said. "It is." Sarah smiled. A real one. Small and sad and genuine. "Good," she said. "You deserve that, Daniel. You always did." She walked down the porch steps and down the path, and got into the black truck and drove away. Daniel stood on the porch and watched her go until the taillights disappeared around the corner, and then he stood there a moment longer. In the October evening, in the falling leaves, in the wood smoke air, and he breathed, long and slow and deep, like a man setting down something heavy he had been carrying for a very long time. And then he went inside and put on a pot of coffee for one. And it was enough. It was more than enough. Later that night, Daniel went up to the rooftop. Like always, his old wooden chair, the cold October air, the stars above. More of them tonight. It seemed like the whole sky had shown up, like it knew. Charlie appeared at the top of the stairs, right on time, like he always did these days. His messy hair, his serious face, his complete lack of awareness that he had become the best part of Daniel's evenings. He sat down cross-legged on the rooftop floor, right next to Daniel's chair, looked up at the sky, let out a low whistle. "There's a lot of them tonight," Charlie said. "Yeah," Daniel said. "There are." Charlie was quiet for a moment. "The good kind. The kind where nothing needs to be said, because everything is already understood." Then he looked up at Daniel. "Are you okay?" he asked, with the directness that only 7-year-olds and very old men can get away with. Daniel looked at him. This small, serious boy, who had no idea how much he had given by simply sitting down on a rooftop on a dark night and asking, "Can I count with you?" "Yeah, Charlie," Daniel said. "I really am." Charlie nodded. Like that settled it. Then he looked back up at the sky. "Should we start?" he asked. Daniel leaned back in his chair, looked up at the endless sky, at the thousands of stars, scattered like wildflowers, across the dark, purple and yellow and white, and every color in between. He thought about the farmer's market, and a peach, and a laugh that turned on a light. He thought about rooftop nights, and honey brown eyes, and a promise made in starlight. He thought about empty closets and 3 sentences and a field on a Friday. He thought about Walter and Earl and Pete and wildflowers in a blue vase and a savings notebook and a name on a door. Daniel Hayes Auto. He thought about all of it, every single piece, the beautiful and the broken, the golden and the grief. And he understood something in that moment, something he couldn't have understood at the beginning. All of it was his. Every piece, the joy and the loss, the love and the leaving, the wildflowers and the empty vase, the 3 sentences and the forgiveness. All of it had made him this man in this chair, under this sky, next to this small serious boy who was waiting patiently to count the stars. And Daniel Hayes was grateful for all of it, even the parts that had broken him, especially those parts, because without them, he wouldn't be here, steady, whole, his own. He smiled, that real smile, the one that starts in the chest. "Yeah, Charlie," he said softly. "Let's start." And so they did. 1, 2, 3. 2 voices, small and warm, rising into the October night, into the stars, into the sky that holds everything, the grief, the love, the loss, the grace, the beautiful impossible fact that human beings can be broken completely and still find their way back to something worth counting, something worth staying for, something worth being here for. And that is where we leave Daniel Hayes, on his rooftop, in his old wooden chair, under his stars, with a small boy beside him, and a dream in a notebook, and wildflowers overflowing a blue vase. Downstairs, in a kitchen, in a small house, on Elm Street, in a quiet town called Maplewood, where ordinary people live ordinary lives and love deeply and lose completely, and somehow keep going, one star at a time. And now, it is time for you to rest. You have been on quite a journey tonight. You walked into a farmer's market and watched two people find each other. You sat on a rooftop and heard a promise made in starlight. You stood in a kitchen and watched a man read 3 sentences that changed everything. You walked through the grief, through the long nights, through the field on a Friday, through the first smile, through the quiet acceptance, through the forgiveness, through the final night. Under the stars, you stayed for all of it. And that matters, because the people who stay for the whole story are the ones who understand that every ending is just a beginning, wearing different clothes. So let this story settle into you now, like warmth, like the feeling of being home. Let Daniel's quiet courage remind you of your own, because you have it. You do. The same strength, the same capacity to love, to lose, to grieve, and to heal. One ordinary day at a time, one star at a time. Now let your eyes close. All the way. Let your breathing go slow. Let your body go heavy. Let the night hold you the way it holds Daniel up on that rooftop. Steady, safe, under the stars. You have nothing left to carry tonight. Nothing left to figure out. Nothing left to worry about. Just this. Just the quiet. Just the soft dark. Just the sound of your own breathing. In and out. In and out. The stars are out. Daniel is counting. Charlie is beside him. The wildflowers are in the blue vase. The dream is in the notebook. And you are exactly where you need to be. Warm, safe, held by the night, by the story, by the simple, beautiful truth that love, even when it breaks you, never truly leaves. It lives in the wildflowers, in the blue vase, in the stars you count, in the people who sit beside you, in the quiet courage of simply, still, being here. Good night. Sleep deeply. Dream softly. This is Kashif from Getz Sleepy, and it has been the greatest honor to sit with you tonight, in the quiet, in the dark, under the stars. Until next time, take care of yourself the way Daniel learned to. Slowly, gently, and with wildflowers, whenever possible. Good night.